Good evening. It's 7 p.m. on March 6th, 2025. We'd like to convene the Select Board meeting. Just would like to remind everyone that it's being televised and recorded by Sandwich Community Television. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Is anyone here for public comment? And, no. Okay. And in so doing, may I remind everyone to speak clearly into the microphone and be reminded to turn it on, make it green. Okay, thank you. I don't believe there are any minutes to approve, so we'll do that next week. Town manager report.
Thank you. Just a couple of really quick updates. Next Tuesday night is the Finance Committee meeting at 6 o'clock in the auditorium, and the primary presentations are from Upper Cape Tech on their FY26 budget, the town and school capital budget presentation, and then if there's any follow-up questions on the school budget, and then the following week is a general follow-up with any questions that may have arisen for all of us to answer. So we'll be prepared for those. And then our regular meeting is next Thursday night, the 13th at 7 here. And I'll be honest, we've been going from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting lately, and do not have anything else to update on. Thank you.
And thank you. Correspondence, statements, announcements. You know, just a couple of quick ones, please. That the, as Bud mentioned, the Finance Committee met on Tuesday night, received 5 presentations from Mr. Dunham and Wastewater Program Implementation Manager Dave Mason. Good discussion followed. Progress, in my opinion. And just a reminder that next Thursday night, the Sandwich Citizens Police Academy will commence their 2025 program. The instructors are great, and all of those who enrolled will come away with education and understanding. Another course is already being planned for 2026. Okay? Staff meeting. Various town staff, fiscal 26 budget update, potential recommendation vote.
Yeah, if I could just do a quick intro, and if anyone wants to come up, that'd be awesome. There's seats up there. But we had hoped that tonight the board might be willing to take a vote on your recommended FY26 budget so we can present that to the Finance Committee next Tuesday. Doesn't mean if numbers change between now and when we're ready to finalize the warrant for town meeting, that we can't make any changes. We can still do that. But I thought it would be important for us just to give you some of the summary information, most of which is in your budget binders, but some of it is the updated work and presentations we've done since those were distributed. So obviously, in addition to Heather and I, Bill Jennings, our finance director, is here, DPW Director Paul Tilton, Police Chief Jason Keene, and Deputy Chief Josh Bound. JJ Burke, the fire chief, is teaching a class tonight, and it doesn't end till almost 7, so I'm not unlikely he'd be able to make it. So I just wanted to explain, because there were 2 bigger items in our packet tonight, we sort of separated them into 2 different chunks of information. So I just wanted to go through what's in the budget overview information. There's the base budget, which is, we've talked about several times, is the general government at 3.65%. After that, you have every department is listed on how we came up with that 3.65%. And then there's the optimal outcome budget, where the only difference is really an additional $560,000 for DPW public infrastructure, and that would bump the general government budget from 3.65 to 6.05%. Then it has the detailed backup of what's different in the DPW budget, and that's highlighted in yellow. I will add quickly, because this question came up at the Finance Committee from a member of the public, what's the tax impact of the difference between the base budget and the optimal outcome budget? And Bill has prepared, and I left it in front of your seats, what that difference is. And to cut to the chase, it's $38.51 for the average home in Sandwich, which right now is valued at $717,300. So the difference between the two relates to a change in a difference of just under $40. Just because I thought it would be worthwhile, we have the FY25 and beyond summary on all the things that the board and the Finance Committee and the public supported for FY25, plus what we're planning on implementing for 26. And then there's an excellent presentation that the so-called Big Three, Police, Fire, DPW, made to the Finance Committee about a week and a half ago. So that whole summary is in your packet, as well as just a summary of what the FY25 and beyond did for those three departments. And to cut to the chase, 78% of the things that we funded through that initiative are going to those three departments. There's the slide presentation that the three departments made to the Finance Committee. And then Paul prepared a really good summary of all the road and drainage work, summarized that his department has done for the last many years. And then once you get to the second page, it starts to look at, if we could have that additional money, what would we look at for the next 5 years? So that's listed in there. And I'm sure he could explain it better than I if time allows. One of the big things that jumps out at everyone when you look at what we've done is that major project at Quaker Meeting House in 130. Really took the lion's share of our money the last few years because it was such a big effort. A couple of other things. There's a one-page summary of the FY26 capital project recommendation that Heather and Bill have been working on for quite some time. The CIPC voted on everything on the list except for a couple of vehicles, I think, that we're getting back to them with more information next Monday night. And then they wanted a little bit more detail on the school requests. So that's going to be talked about late Monday afternoon at 100 Route 6A at the next CIPC meeting. And then in the back is the financial section of the town charter that has some of those, I guess I would call them goal dates. They're not like set in stone, but they're dates by which ideally we'd be making recommendations to the Finance Committee and making presentations to the boards and to the public. And then the last page is just the Finance Committee meeting schedule and who's scheduled to come in the next several weeks. So I think the main reason we wanted DPW and police and fire is if there were any questions about, the larger departments, or anything that the board wants us to highlight, we're more than willing to try to answer whatever we can.
Thank you. Please.
Rose between two thorns. A rose between two thorns.
Wow. Good evening.
Good evening. Chief, just an overview of what you'd like to accomplish in the next fiscal year, please.
What we'd like to accomplish?
Yes.
Well, primarily, it would be getting up to full staff with mainly with our police officers. We're currently at full staff with dispatch. We have 3 recruits in the academy right now that are slated to graduate early in the summer, and we should hopefully have them out on the road on their own by the fall. We are currently set, have one to go to the next academy, and we're looking to get a second for that. So, and that would bring us up to strength that, and, yeah, so. But that's our primary goal, is focusing on staffing right now.
Yeah, great, thank you.
I would say, as the board knows, we funded in FY25 the additional 3 officers to staff 4 to midnight. But between trying to get them on board, plus if someone retires and someone new comes in, it's like a cycle. So I think the department's explained really well over time that when we hire someone, by the time they actually physically get on the road, between the academy and the in-house training, it's close. It's not a year, but it's close to a year.
Yeah, it's really close to a year.
In fire, it's a full year, so yeah.
So, and we have Lieutenant Bruce Lawrence is retiring the end of the month. On March 28th will be his last day. And we have Sergeant Chris McDermott, who's been out on long-term injury. His retirement should be finalized probably within the month, I would assume. So it's at the final stages. So we'll be looking to replace them as well.
Okay, and the primary capital goes to body armor?
Yeah, most of the vests that we have will be expiring within the next few years. That's what happens when you get them all at once. They all tend to expire all at the same time. Some of our new hires have gotten them obviously later on, so some of them will carry over beyond that. But that's primarily what will be replacing is the body armor as it expires.
And the recording device?
Yeah, the recording device, currently the one that we're utilizing for our radios, our business lines, and 911 is going to be, 911 is basically taking it over, so it's strictly going to be for 911 calls, and that's going to be happening probably within the next few months. So we need to get our own recording solution for our radio transmissions as well as our business line.
Great, thank you. And how many cruisers do you think we'll need to replace within the next year?
We typically go for 4 a year is what we look to do. Obviously, with the price increases that we've seen in vehicles, it's gone through the roof. It's probably doubled over the last 10 years or so. You know, and we're really limited to the types of vehicles that we can get as far as the function goes. So we recently transitioned back over to Explorers due to the fact of them being a little bit more economical than the Tahoes were. So we currently have, what do we have, 4? I believe we have 4, right? 4 Explorers, and we're looking to get 3 more of those this year.
3 more.
Probably 1 administrative vehicle as well.
Okay. Yes.
Chief, we had talked before about body cameras.
Yes.
Is that something we're going to look at in the future, or?
We are looking into that. Again, it's something I think we're really looking forward to getting. It's just a question of the cost of the equipment itself, as well as the management of it as well. It would most certainly require another position to handle all of the public records requests, the redaction, and the storage of the information as well, and like I said, the maintenance of the equipment that goes along with it. But it's definitely something that we'd like to pursue, and sooner rather than later.
Okay. The only thing I had is we talked about at one time, traffic controls on the cruisers like we have in the fire department.
Yes.
Is that something that we're working towards?
We're definitely, do we don't have the, go ahead.
We actually just, on the last 2 cruisers we purchased that came, we purchased those as well. It wasn't a huge investment, and it's well worth it.
Yeah, and the new cars we get this year, we'll have them in those as well. But we don't have them in the older vehicles.
Yeah, okay, good.
Great, thank you.
When you guys switch back over to the Explorers, is it a large cost savings? Because I would imagine with the amount of stuff that you guys have to tote around, that the vehicle size, is that an issue?
The Explorers, they're big enough for everything that we have. It hasn't really been an issue with that. It's just the Tahoes they've just priced themselves out. They've just gotten too expensive. It's not that the Explorers are any kind of a bargain, because they're not, but we just can't touch the Tahoes anymore, price-wise.
And then the one question I think I asked last year or the year before is, on the firearm side, how many platforms are we maintaining as a department? Because I know some departments have consolidated platforms, as far as you know, everybody's using the same, you know, caliber weapon versus, you know, and then they have the rifle backup or a shotgun.
Yeah, we currently issue out Glock 9mm is what we have for the department. Some of our detectives carry Sig Sauer P365s, which are also 9mm. And then we do have patrol rifles in each one of the cars.
Because I know that in some of the things I've read that the standardizing the weapon between everybody in case there is an issue, you can, you know.
With magazines and so on and so forth, yeah, in case of a critical incident, yes. Yep.
Okay.
She's working out fantastic. We really got lucky with her. She's the perfect person for the job. She recently started working over at the Cal 2 days a week for a few hours and taking appointments over there. So in between that and assisting with the schools and just the regular business that we get that comes in, she's very busy. So she gives us weekly logs, and I've been sharing them with Heather, and they're very detailed, and it just shows just how busy she is and how much of a need there was for her position.
Yeah, my compliments on that. That's something that's really
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah, we're thrilled to have her.
Right, and it's great to hear that she's being well utilized.
What's that?
It's great to hear that she's being well utilized.
She is, yep. We just need 3 more just like her.
Okay. Anybody else?
Paul, are you ready?
You have questions?
Yeah. No, just for the DPW on the same thing on the vehicles. You know, I know last year the issue, you know, potentially arose about diesel vehicles and not, I know that got put off, not indefinitely, but for the time being. When we look at the replacement of some of the larger trucks, is that something that we're looking to speed up in the event that comes back around on the diesel large vehicle, you know, converting to electric? Is that something that we're looking to accelerate some of the replacements?
Yeah, in terms of saving money, I mean, that would certainly make sense to do something like that, but it also depends on what's available for trucks. Some of the manufacturers have been behind, or still behind, so it takes up to half a year to a year to tame some of these trucks. But the ones that we're looking at are still diesel. We do have the hybrids for the small pickup trucks, but when you get to the larger trucks, the power is not the same with the electric vehicles. There are still some grants out there that we're considering to help supplement if we do look at electric vehicles, but right now the focus really for the large heavy vehicles is still using the diesel.
Yeah, I guess, let me rephrase my question. Are we looking to accelerate replacing the diesel vehicles with new diesel vehicles to, you know, elongate our lifespan before switching to electric? 'Cause I know that, talking to people that have the electric on those larger vehicles, it's, you know, in some of the trash company trucks, when they go out, it's like they need 2 trucks to do 1 truck's route, because it has to come back and it can't recharge fast enough to complete, you know,
Yeah.
especially in like a snow operation, that could be a challenge.
Yeah, to the extent possible, if the funding is available and the truck's available, we still do focus on diesel and getting those vehicles.
Right. And there's no advantage to pre-ordering vehicles ahead of time to get them into,
Yeah, it's difficult to do that because the manufacturer's not willing to commit.
okay.
And purchasing law wouldn't allow you to do it anyway.
Yeah.
'Cause they want to see that you have them. You can't have a fishing expedition.
Right.
You have to have the money to buy what you're
Right.
proposing to buy.
Right, the experience that the fire department's had is that they buy off the floor, and they do better.
Right, right.
Okay. If you could just relate the increase in the road to the 2.6 that we're talking about in the budget increase. Could you just give us the background to that, please?
Yeah, so every 5 years, we perform a pavement management report and study by a consultant, and we'll, as a staff, will update that annually by inspecting roads, including some more inventory. But that 5-year report basically said that in order for us to maintain our roads adequately and keep them in good shape, we need $2.6 million annually to do that. We've been working towards that. I think 3 years ago, we got an increase, which was great. So we're looking to add the $560,000 as part of next fiscal year to get to that 2.6. And that will go a long way in helping us meet our goals to take care of our infrastructure, whether it be roads, drainage, and such.
All of the roads have been evaluated to date?
Correct. But we still go out each year to reevaluate those, because things happen during the winter. Like this year, we had a lot of frost heaves. Some roads blew apart. We discovered new drainage issues as well on some of the roads. But in general, we do have a priority list, and that's fluid, changes year to year. But the list you see in front of you it's highly variable based upon what we get for county bids. We're kind of just breaking that down right now, and also further inspection of the roads.
So it's always being updated. It's a work in progress constantly.
Correct.
Anybody else?
Oh, as I was, you have the list of all the projects, and that's available on the town website as well. So
Yes, it is.
if you're spilling your coffee on the way home or on the way out, we have a list of roads that are the upcoming projects. It's an extensive list of roads. I mean, it's a lot that's on here and a lot that was completed. So it's good to see.
Okay, Mr. Dunham?
I would just add, I think this has been almost a 20-year effort to get us to where we are at this point. We had a road bond in the 90s that was very successful. And then at least 10 years later, we tried the concept of the one-year capital outlay exclusions. We were successful 1 year, didn't ask the second. I think we were successful the third, and then it got turned down after that or wasn't asked for. And so eventually we decided we better ask for another road bond, which we did. And, this has been our goal to get to this number. And if you remember, I think 2 or 3 fiscal years ago, the board was really supportive and we got another $650,000 in Paul's budget, which was a huge help from what he had before. And this would add another 560. So when you add what's within his budget plus what we receive in the state Chapter 90 money and the so-called fair share formula, that part that goes for the roads, we're finally, if we approve this and get it through town meeting, we'll finally be at the recommended 2.6 million a year. And I think the ultimate goal is if we can try to implement this and keep it successful, we won't need to ask for a road bond unless things go really badly or if prices go crazy. But I feel like some of the more difficult roads and drainage problems that we've addressed now allows us to do something that Patrick's talked about a lot, is doing more surface treatments to maintain the roads instead of full depth type things that we might have had to do in the past. So it just seems like, I want to speak for Bill, but I think we didn't think we'd be able to do it within our operating budgets without debt exclusions. And it seems like we found a way over the last 3-4 years. So, and some of that has been with bigger help from the state, which we really appreciate. So. And I would also say something that we touched on in our presentation. It's sort of a nice split because it's almost 50% in the budget, 50% in the state money. The state money's nice because you can carry it over fiscal year to fiscal year or build it up for a much larger project that you have to do. And I would say the other part of roads and drainage that everyone forgets are, what about the parking lots in the school and the town and the driveways to Oak Ridge, Forestdale? The high school we just redid, but there's a lot of that work that has to be done as well that I know, Paul and his crew are excited to do.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Thank you very much, Paul and Chief and Deputy Chief. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Fine job. Okay, so based upon these discussions, do we want to discuss a motion, or do we want to make a motion?
You can make a motion, I guess. Okay. Make a motion to recommend to approve fiscal 26 annual budget. Good enough?
As presented. As presented.
Presented.
Presented? Okay.
Second.
Is the optimal budget, just to clarify? Is that- Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Okay? Yes.
And so, just a point of discussion on that. The one thing that I will say, pursuant to the recommendation on the roads, is that I think for the town in the future, it would be much more prudent to go after bigger projects like Quaker Meeting House Road and Katuitt as part of a one-time standalone capital request. We want to do this intersection, rather than use large sums of money that can be used to forestall deterioration of the network level of pavement management. It runs against using $1 million out of that money it runs against the concept of pavement management, which is preservation of the network level pavements rather than focusing on a project level. So that's just a thought for the future, that it would make that, the money that we have in the budget would be much more effective if we didn't drain it down for a big project like Quaker. Just simple as that.
Capital
But
project.
roads are so, since largely our increase is roads, they're such a universal thing because they're public safety, all the way down to commerce, and all of our departments use them, every bit of energy in the community uses that network of roads. So that's why they're generally well-accepted expenditures by the public. They see it, it's something they can rate very easily in the performance of a department. So it's good for us to be climbing this. This has been a long, as Bud mentions, this has been and it will always be a battle. It'll never be solved because we'll spend $20 million and we'll have a $20 million backlog. But in between that time, we get high level of use out of these things. So
We'll say in the past when we tried it, we were quite successful separating out, just like what you said. I remember the service road years ago, the Pimlico Pond, Snake Pond Road signal. I mean, there wasn't a signal there at one point. I mean, those were all separate votes.
yeah.
The public, resoundingly supported, and it's a
And
really
we
good
can
idea.
think in the future about adding other things in, like tennis courts, like pickleball courts, things that we own, that we can do as part of a smaller bonding.
Okay.
Get Bill all fired up.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockner. Pursuant to the discussion, I don't think there's an amendment to the motion that needs to be made. We just have to keep the capital projects in mind. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0, it's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. I think I can speak for Heather and Bill. We're excited next year to have a very plain budget, to not have many, if any, additions, and you guys will be like, oh, this is nothing, we're good. Because we really appreciate the support the last 2 years to try to really make some changes that we've needed a long time, whether it's reorganization or flexibility, or, as Chief Keene was mentioning, officers on the road or the social worker position. It's really been widespread success, and we notice the difference day to day doing our job, so we appreciate it.
Old business, annual town meeting list of potential warrant articles, May 5th, 2025.
Yeah, so this is the second packet that's part of the agenda packet. I did put a slightly revised one page in front of your chair, and I'll explain what that was. We thought we only needed one HERO Act vote, and we actually need two. So if you want, I'll run through the articles 1 through 13 pretty quickly, and then spend a little more time on the others, because those are the atypical ones. And again, in speaking with Bill and Caroline Burke, our town accountant, at next Thursday night's meeting, we'll plan to have some numbers next to these, just so you just voted a big thing with the budget, and that in a way impacts Articles 2 through 5. So we won't break those out, but on the smaller annual transfers that we do every year for, say, the school department cell tower lease, we'll list those numbers just so you're aware of what they are. But really, like I just said, the first 5 articles are pretty standard every year. It's the report of the town officials and the long-range plan. Now that I say it, I have to get to you the updated long-range plan to look at, so I'll get that to you soon. The overall budget, you just voted what your recommendation was, realizing that a month from now it could change before we finalize the warrant. The enterprise fund operating budgets are really, there haven't been any questions about those. They're very straightforward, nothing new. Our revolving fund appropriations that we vote each year as required by law, capital budget should be finalized next week in terms of the CIPC recommendation. There is a presentation next week with the Finance Committee. Our Chapter 90 state aid to highways, they want us to vote each year, even though they don't want us to plug in a number, because they want us to be flexible. And then are the sort of the next 5 or so are the annual ones we do for transfers out: the school department cell tower lease, the beach renourishment account, the sandwich promotions fund appropriations, appropriate the WIF balance towards wastewater purposes, our opioid settlement appropriation for outreach services, and then our CPA fund, which is usually the $75,000 for administrative costs, plus our 10% allocations, plus our debt. So we'll be working on that. Right now, the only CPA project that the Community Preservation Committee has approved, thankfully, is the Town Hall restoration, which we're really appreciative of. I think that was for $1.2 million, even to add to other funds that we had appropriated last year. Article 14 is still up in the air. This is sort of interesting. It's on our wastewater special act. The same wording that was before the legislature the last 2.5 years was resubmitted. We have a meeting coming up that has yet to be scheduled with the state treasurer's office to see if they have any comments, if they have concerns. Could we massage that wording a little bit to help it through quicker? So, John Giorgio is working with us on that, and he just asked that I put a placeholder down in case we need to slightly change what we had voted previously. So the next couple, I'm trying to get the appropriate department heads to come in all on the same evening so we could talk about them as a group. The first 2 relate to that so-called HERO Act that the state adopted last September, I believe. The 2 parts that we'd have to vote, one relates to a veterans exemption adjustment. So each year it could be adjusted by, it's not the consumer price index, but they have some state term. If we adopted that, there would be an annual adjustment of the amounts. And then the second part is the disabled vets exemption that deals with property taxes, not excise taxes. So that has to be voted. I know it sounds weird. The assessing and the Board of Assessors refer to the first as Clause 22I, and the second is Clause 22J, because that's the part or subpart of a general law that it relates to. So Ben Steich has been working with the Board of Assessors to get their recommendation, which is critical, and he and Bill are calculating what the impact is on all this. So we're going to present that to you when we get Ben in. It ties into the next one. I don't know if we need Dave Sullivan to come in, but if you remember, there was a Supreme Court decision that related to tax titles and what could be charged for interest rates. Bob's very familiar with it, with what his side job does, but it's really changed the landscape. And then the state adopted some things that really, in the scheme of things, wasn't that friendly to towns. One of the provisions that town council has strongly recommended is that we adopt one part of the general laws, Chapter 22A, Section 9A, that deals with the disposition of abandoned funds. Just protects you a little bit on some things that we might encounter through the tax title process. So that's a generic one that they're requesting all their towns to adopt. Next one's a little bit more specific, and Taylor White, the town clerk, would come into the same meeting as Ben to give you an update on his thought about a provision for nomination papers that they have to be picked up at least 48 hours before the due date for some of the tracking that they need to do. It would make the office's life a little bit easier. The deadline is still the deadline. Nothing changes. People can still bring them back up to that deadline. So he could explain that better. And then the accessory dwelling unit zoning amendment, Leanne Drake is going to come in when we advertise the short-term rental bylaw at public outreach. So when she comes in for that, she's also going to update us on the accessory dwelling unit effort, which, as you've probably read, is a big push from the state and the governor's office, and there have been some changes. Sandwich, to its credit, has always allowed accessory dwelling units. The state has expanded a little bit further, so we're trying to amend our zoning bylaw so it's more consistent with state law, and will give homeowners, if they have a certain size lot, more flexibility on either adding a bedroom or adding an ADU above a garage or a standalone unit. Leanne will be able to explain that. And Patrick will remember this from years ago. There's this whole issue about contiguous non-conforming lots was a huge issue with the planning board. And I think there's been some refinement of how that gets treated and maybe how things have been interpreted over time. And so this is to try to clarify that further. I couldn't do it justice, but Leanne will come in and explain all that to us. Same thing with 21, which is the short-term rental bylaw. And then we received 2 petitions. I'll do my best to explain them. The first is one that is similar to ones we've received previously, like 2 parts, one to ban containers less than 50 milliliters, alcohol containers, and the second part to ban alcohol containers less than 100 milliliters. That's one petition article. And the second, and I'm just printing it as we received it, it's called Skip the Stuff Ordinance, and it deals with like eating utensils, takeaway containers, etc. when people order food to go. You know, what's provided in the bag, lids, things like that. And so the deadline for petition articles passed on March 1st, so those are the 2 petition articles that were resubmitted with the proper signatures. And then town election and ballot election is election of officers. There is that one ballot question on the Water Infrastructure Investment Fund. And if we didn't already vote that language, I will definitely have that in your packet next week. John Giorgio approved that months ago, so we did. I think we did, but that's ready to go. Yep.
Dialing back to number 16 for a minute. I know Dave is coming in, right?
On the HERO Act, Ben would come in on that one. You know what?
Abandoned funds.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I can get Dave to come in on that to try to explain that.
Yeah.
It was it's in here. There's that generic thing from town council that I think I put in your packet, but it's one of those ones you have to read 3 times, and unless you're the treasure collector, you probably still don't know what it means. So I will have him come in.
I can try to help with that if you like.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
So this is on number 17. Is this the question?
Yeah.
Actually,
Yes, so
16.
16 would be Ben Stites. That would be the disabled veterans exemption.
Yeah, Bill, they have two summaries. So Charlie's looking at 16 that was in the packet. 17 is the new list. So
Sorry.
you guys are talking about the same thing, even though the numbers are different.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So we are talking about the disposition of abandoned funds?
Right, 17, yes.
Yeah. So there was a lot of changes in the tax title laws last year. As Bud mentioned, unfortunately, some of that, well, most of it, to be honest with you, was not too friendly for towns. So town council had sent out a memo probably about 2 weeks ago, I guess, or so, and recommended that we adopt this part of Mass General Law, and this would just help the towns during that process, and especially abandoned funds, and it has to do with the town having to turn over funds to the state treasurer's office. So this was just recommended from town council as part of that tax title process. to go ahead and put this before town meeting, and it would just aid the towns a little bit in the process of how we have to dispose of the funds from the proceeds of a tax title sale.
Wow. You're right.
It's confusing,
wrap
yeah.
your head around.
Yeah.
I'm still stuck on abandoned.
This may be one where we turn it over to Attorney Giorgio at town meeting.
Yeah, we'll certainly get more information on it. The tax title, to be honest, the tax title process was kind of turned on its head this year. So, even as we always do our tax title processing in March of every single year. This year we have to do an entirely different new process. So we spent a lot of time with our tax title attorney, just getting up to date and making sure we're following all the new rules correctly. And this is part of that. But I agree with Bud. John Giorgio could probably do it much better and speak more eloquently about it than I can, but I will certainly provide more information going forward.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have a finance director on the air.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Does anyone see any, are there any articles you're definitely, of the ones non-petition articles, are there ones you don't want us to present or just proceed as is and just get you more information on each?
I don't see any that I dislike to that extent. And more information on each would be helpful, though.
Okay.
The one on the school department cellular lease, that's just the transfer, and we're not renewing that, right? That's just the transfer.
It's just the transfer of the funds that we have on hand. Yep.
Okay. Other matters not reasonably anticipated by the chairman under old business. I have none. New business. Other matters not reasonably anticipated by the chairman. I have none at this time. Yes.
I have one.
Sure, Mr. George.
As you all received this paper, the sign that I gave you, it's reference to veterans parking only. I was in Bridgewater several months ago when I saw this sign out there in front of the town hall. And seeing we're doing a couple of hero articles, I thought it might be good that we maybe put the sign up at 100 6A at our town hall. The way it reads is veteran parking only. This space is reserved for those who served. Unauthorized vehicles may be removed at the vehicle owner's expense. I talked to Bud about it. Went down to Human Services in the town hall there and just brought it out to them. They thought it was a good idea. Carl Johansson, I brought it up to him today, and he was jumping for joy. But I thought it was some way that we could, pay back to our veterans, at least give them one parking space. And Bud mentioned we could put it on the left-hand side of the town hall. We have a space there, and we have access for handicap or whatever. So I'd like to recommend that we go ahead and put one of these signs up for our veterans. What do you think?
I think it's great. The only question I have, if you don't mind, is the vehicle would be identified by a veteran's license plate?
I don't know how we would do that.
I think we'd use the honor system. I mean, we're not going to.
Yeah, the honor system, probably. I mean, if it's parked there for a long time,
Yeah.
it's definitely not a veteran. They're going to come do their business, I think, at the town hall and then leave. I think on the honor system. If we had a problem, we could run the plate with the police department and find out who owns it. If it's there a long time.
I mean, it's one of these, I think it's like it's a honor system, type thing. I mean, we could even take, I would say,
That last part.
the tow part out. We're not gonna tow anybody at town
Yeah.
hall unless it's a derelict car, but I would say the part, it's one of those, it's a nice attaboy, kind of sign.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that
Yeah,
at all.
Yeah, no, I get it, yeah.
You don't want to add to our policing.
Should I make a motion?
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that we put the veteran parking only sign at Route 100, Route 6A at our new town hall for the veterans. And it's to be placed where the town administrator feels it best deserved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other matters not reasonably anticipated? I have none. Second opportunity for public comment. Okay. Closing remarks. Just continue with my effort to please maintain the conditions in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and the overall threats to world peace, as well as those affected by natural emergencies, in our thoughts and prayers. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. George, second by Mr. Hockter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See you next Thursday, March 13th, 2025, at 7 PM here in Historic Town Hall. Enjoy your evenings. Have a safe week.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you,
Good night,
Bill.